Hello, beautiful women. I am so delighted that you are here and honored to be a part of WIN. I'm very passionate about sharing my message and know that we can be better and do better together in the world by supporting and educating one another and building wonderful communities like WIN. So my greatest mission is to teach people of all ages how to just show up for themselves and others so they are empowered and resilient when grief and life's challenges arrive. And that we are wonderful. We have value and we matter simply because we exist. We are perfectly imperfect and vulnerable and messy, and that is okay. And the truth is that the more we accept that and become the very best version of ourselves, our flawed, imperfect selves, we are being a wonderful example to the world, and we are better able to just show up for one another. And I have my hashtag I just showed up. This is our movement. And this is what reminds me that if I want to serve, if I want to be a part of creating social change, if I want to do good things in the world, I need to just show up for myself first. That isn't selfish, it is actually selfless. And that is truly something that women, a little tough love, we have we are a little bit notorious for doing everything for everyone else except ourselves. And that stops here. Every martyr is fired. We need to be wonderful examples to those we want to serve of phenomenal self-care and loving our flawed and imperfect selves. So for my first video, I really wanted to share, I happen to be doing this in the midst of our global pandemic, where every single human being has been affected by COVID-19, and there is political unrest, and there are many layers of grief happening in the world right now. And I mean, I left my nursing career in 2015, realizing we are a society, a world that is very ill prepared for grief and life's challenges. And now here we are, every single person in the world is affected. And I want to start with defining what grief is, and so that we have an understanding. So many people feel like grief is just something we experience when somebody dies, and we're sad and we're crying, and it's just experienced in that painful time. And the truth is that grief is our mental, physical, and emotional reaction to loss, transitions, and change in whatever makes your heart ache: divorce, diagnosis, job loss, mental health issues, children being home all the time, financial stress, you name it. There is grief experienced in all of this. The other part of that is that grief and joy can coexist. So when we are having a challenging time in our lives, it's not like, oh, all of that has to go away in the grief and we get over that and then we can have joy in our lives. Grief and joy can coexist. And these are things that we need to just truly absorb into our hearts so that we can share this with others. And actually, we are each responsible for our own journey, aren't we? Our own happiness. And even though that is true, we can still support and love one another along the way. So I have been in the last several months sharing my 10 tips on navigating life, grief, and everything in between, and trying to have a few laughs along the way because it's already serious enough. And my fun background, that's a part of always wanting to have fun, talking about the elephant in the room, even though it's disguised, it's always there. And I have a whole bunch of toys in the front too here, just to keep myself smiling because it's already serious enough. So I'm going to share my 10 tips with you. And you can actually go to my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com, follow me, and you can get the 10 tips. And then I just do a weekly blog, a video blog, a vlog. I'm a vlogger now. And you'll get the 10 tips and so much more. So I encourage you to, reach out and in this time, in this challenging time, just do the very best you can. Reach out for support when you need it. And I will share my 10 tips, and hopefully that will help support you. So I have them written down here, and I'm just going to share them with you. Tip number 1, and these are not in any order of importance. They're just 10 tips that came to me. Number 1 is one of the most important: acknowledge and allow all feelings. You know, you have been notorious, I know you have, for being strong for everyone, right? And we, I do find women in particular, we want to be strong for everyone and sometimes stuff our own feelings down. And the truth is, in a global pandemic or whatever we are going through, if we haven't been through it before, how do we even know how to navigate it? So I want you to be able to acknowledge and allow your feelings and the feelings of the people around you. If we just allow feelings, that's what helps to diffuse them. If we validate them, we so want to fix things, don't we? We want to fix people's problems. We don't want people to feel bad. And the truth is, in this pandemic, there's been everything from disappointment to devastation. And just because someone isn't devastated, they're just disappointed about things. We've had lots of disappointment in our family. Those feelings are still valid. No, maybe they're not starving or financially ruined, or it isn't that somebody died, but I have 16-year-old twins, and they have had tremendous disappointment in COVID. Number 1 being always getting to hang out with mom and dad instead of their friends. That is disappointing. So when we acknowledge and allow our feelings and the feelings of everyone around us, it diffuses it and helps people. People need to be validated. Just show up for each other, because that's what makes the difference. This is a good one too. Number 2, be informed, but not obsessed. Whether it's COVID or political stress or systemic racism, which the light has been shone on that in the past year, and has always existed, and now we can, people have been awakened, and it's about time as well. We can be overwhelmed and obsessed with getting statistics and watching the news. We can watch news 24/7. And I never want anyone to stick their head in the sand, but be informed, but not obsessed, because it can truly be, you can be in just a devastated way all the time if you're continuously bombarded with all the bad things that are going on. Be informed, but not obsessed. And number 3, in whatever your situation, do the very best you can to protect yourself and your family. If you see something, say something, or let it go. And if you didn't do the best that you could, forgive yourself and do better next time. This is particularly important right now in COVID, and people are just so over it. We are done with COVID, but COVID is not done with us. That's just the hard truth. Here in my community right now, we are in lockdown. You are not allowed to go anywhere or do anything right now. And, we have our array of masks and hand sanitizer everywhere. And then you see people that are gathering, that are ignoring all the rules. And, sometimes that just, it causes my heart, my heart starts to race. And, we can't change everyone. We can do the very best we can. We can be the best example. And that's all that we can do. Do the best you can to protect yourself and your family in whatever situation. And number 4, again, another important one, is understand that what we are experiencing is global grief. Remember, grief occurs in loss, transitions, change. It affects us mentally, physically, emotionally. It isn't always just crying with some tissue. When you see people that are angry, irritable, or just having trouble focusing, they can't work. They're not productive. It could all be grief. And the more we understand that and accept it, the better off we'll be. Like, what is this person's problem? Why are they they're yelling at everyone? I've taught this to my children. Children get this if we learn it, and then we can teach it. You know, my children have come home and said, "Oh, so and so was so crabby today," and you know, they were very angry and irritable. And I'd say, "Well, what do you think that's really hard. That's hard to handle. What do you think could be going on?" "I know, Mom. They could be grieving." Yes, you're right. So as much as you don't need to stay around someone who's yelling and angry, or you could, you know, say, it sounds like you're having a really hard time right now. Is everything okay?" Right? There's back to that acknowledging and allowing feelings, protecting yourself as well, and recognizing grief is often disguised as anger, and something we do not recognize. So the next, allow the process. Life is unpredictable. Prepare for anything. And, you know, again, especially in this time, the rules are changing all the time, and we don't know, and we think things are getting better. And over here, people are getting the vaccine and they're not over here. And I feel like we just need to take a breath, allow the process. We don't have to like it, but if we allow it, we are not comfortable with uncertainty. And I get it. Again, it's okay to say that. And this is a very uncertain time in many, many ways. If we just allow the process, we again will have less anxiety as we move through it. And I say use your creativity and imagination along the way to ease your own process. Next tip, catch your breath. You know, we are constantly on the go, overstretched, trying to do everything for everyone and have it all. And in this great pause, as many have called it, many have had to step off of that treadmill. And you know, before you step back on, I would love you to ask yourself if you want to. I did speak to one friend who said in this, she realized she was traveling with her business. She was on 8 planes a month, 8 planes, different cities. And she said, you know what I've decided? I don't want to be on 8 planes a month. And I was just so busy on that treadmill, I didn't even recognize the fact that I was exhausted and unhappy. So before you step back on a treadmill, why don't you see what you could do to change things if that doesn't sound appealing to you? We have made many little changes in our home because of this great pause, and I am truly grateful for that. And so I encourage you, if you can, catch your breath and see maybe what you could do differently before getting back on. Next tip, and don't panic, clean your house. Now, that is literally or metaphorically. I don't mean you have to go clean your house if you don't want to, but when I talk about that, I'm talking about mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, wherever there is clutter that is taking away your energy. Just maybe take this time to look around and say, what is taking my energy away, or my joy, or my happiness? What can I do? So I went around, and I love Jack Canfield and his teaching, and they talk about, and Patty Aubrey talked about messes and incompletes. And I got a book, and I went around my house, and for my business, for my relationships, and for my house, I wrote down every single thing that was kind of bothering me or just needed to be fixed or something. And, you know, it was truly extraordinary because it just felt so good. Suddenly it's like that chair needs some little felt pads under it because it keeps scraping. Took 5 minutes. I went to get the felt pads and I put them under the chair that was bothering me for months. Isn't that so silly? And I know we all have those things, right? That just sort of bother us, but not enough to really do something about it. So I feel like it's again, a time when we're home more, many of us, to just kind of say, what is weighing me down? What isn't working well for me anymore? And what chair needs some felt pads? And just go do it. It feels so wonderful. Say what is no longer serving me. And we have been doing this a little bit at a time every week. And it has been absolutely wonderful. And I can't even believe how many messes and incompletes we have in our home. So I love this other one and this next tip, and it's fill your life with happiness and gratitude. And I have to tell you, we talk about happiness and we talk about gratitude, and yet I believe that we really don't understand the extreme power of it. For many years now, I have named 10 things that I'm grateful for every day. And I will tell you, I have had tremendous grief. I have been in excruciating pain. I have been divorced. I was a single parent for 6 years. Our son went down a very dangerous road of drugs and addiction. I have had, low self-esteem. I've been through some stuff as well. And on those days, I will tell you, it was challenging to find things to be grateful for. And yet there always was something. There was 10 things. And sometimes it was, I'm grateful for my hot shower, for my cup of coffee, for my house, for my dog. I am grateful for the counselor at Addiction Outreach, who is my lifeline right now, who is helping me on this excruciating journey. There's always something to be grateful for. And the thing about happiness, I don't know if we come back, but I just know that I want to live the heck out of this life right now. I want to live it fully. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And so I'm not going to wait. And the beautiful thing about happiness is that we are in charge of our own happiness. You can try with all your might. You cannot make someone else happy. The very best thing that you can do is fill your own happiness bucket. Fill your own bucket and then be a great example to others on how they can fill theirs. It is our responsibility, and I take that very seriously. And especially in times where there are layers of grief, like right now, this layer of global grief, I am so intentional about checking in with myself mentally, physically, and emotionally, and saying, what can I do to fill my happiness bucket today? Sometimes I sing in the car really loud. When I'm driving, I wave at everybody, hi, hi. And I know that they think, wow, that lady's really weird. And yet they smiled. And I skip when I'm walking, and I do silly things. And you know what? If you make someone else smile, it just feels so great. So grief and joy can coexist, right? No matter what you are going through, you can still bring in joy. It is never all one or the other. It is a roller coaster. And so the other thing is, when someone else is grieving, again, it is not your job to fix it, but you can love and support them along the way. And if you can bring them a little grief break with a little smile or a little joy, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? So this is, again, something that we need to learn, right? That grief and joy can coexist. We are each in charge of our own happiness. And the very best thing that you can do is fill your own happiness bucket. And I love this one as well. Be the nicest person you know. And can you please start with you being extremely nice to yourself? I know we've all had it, or maybe you still do, that inner critic in there that says, even if you did 100 things right and you did one thing that was wrong, it's like, oh, I can't believe you didn't finish that. You didn't do that right. And that's what your inner critic focuses on. Whereas if it was somebody else, you would be giving them accolades and telling them how wonderful they were for all the things that they did over here. Why do we do that to ourselves? I will tell you right now, it took me a long time, but I have fired my inner critic and I've hired my inner coach. The inner critic won't leave, it's still in there, but I choose not to listen. And whatever I do, whatever I don't do, I say, I just did the best I can, and this is wonderful. And I also physically, that inner critic used to point out all the flaws. Oh, look at the size of your feet. Look at your cellulite. I am over that as well. So when I say be the nicest person that you know, start with you. And again, in this time when people are challenged in so many different ways. I mean, we are all in the same storm. We are not in the same boat. Some are so much more challenged than others. Intentional, be very intentional with kindness. And the other part is make random acts of kindness part of your everyday. And here's the thing. Full disclosure, I tell everyone this. I am a do-gooder. I am a do-gooder. I love random acts of kindness. I love acts of kindness. I call people to say I was thinking of you. I send texts. I am intentional with my kindness. But I don't even think it's because I'm a nice person. It makes me feel so good. And guess what? It fills my happiness bucket. I never wait for someone else to be kind to me, for someone else to make me happy, or an act of kindness. Because the more I do that for others, the more it fills my own happiness. So we always have a choice, right? We don't always have the choice we wish we had. But what we do with it, that is always a choice. We can learn from and support one another. And we are stronger together. And women supporting women is one of the greatest gifts that we can give each other, give our communities, our families, and the world. A global sisterhood is one of the most powerful, powerful things that can create change. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for just showing up and spending some time with me. Feel free to connect anytime. You can email me, Yvonne@loveyourlifetodeath.com, and we can do this together. Support each other, learn from one another, and learn how to navigate life, grief, and everything in between. Thanks again, and bye for now.